Good day, Internet. This is Chavez and Valko, the key to your immigration solutions. And I am Senior Associate Ben Hamilton, here today to talk to you about an immigration update. Obviously, you know, when you see me, we're here to talk about all things employment-based immigration. So you may be thinking, well, we're here to talk about the recent Supreme Court decision regarding MPP? Nah, because that's really not employment-based, but we do have some great attorneys at our firm that have or will be talking about that. So check out our channels for if you're looking for videos about MPP. Today, we wanted to do a brief update about a court case involving the EB-5 Regional Center Program. And the case is Bering Regional Center v. Mayorkas. But first, a little bit of news that might impact, well, any immigrant in the United States. And that is, we've just found out, right, through multiple news reports, that Coinbase, the largest cryptocurrency exchange in North America, has made a deal with ICE, right? That's U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, to share data, right? That obviously includes a lot of data that allows them to track and identify crypto users, but it also includes historical, like, geo-tracking data. What does this mean? Well, it means that if you are here as a non-immigrant, especially if you're here as someone who maybe doesn't have status, that you might not want to use Coinbase if you're interested in investing in cryptocurrency. Just an FYI. Again, if you Google this, you can find plenty of articles that just came out talking about the partnership between Coinbase and ICE. Back to our main story today about the Bering Regional Center case. So, what is the main takeaway from this case? Well, USCIS was enjoined from treating existing regional centers as deauthorized while litigation is pending. That's essentially the holding. Well, what happened here? Right, the EB-5 was created back in the early 90s. Shortly thereafter, they added the EB-5 Regional Center as a pilot program, and that allows authorized regional centers to pool investments and deploy these into projects to create jobs. When I say pilot program, it means that the program wasn't permanent. It had to be reauthorized every so often. Now, over the last 30 years, at least 600 regional centers have received authorization. And the pilot and the program lapsed in June of 2021, right? Pretty much every time the lapse was coming up, it got renewed. But this time it lapsed and it stayed closed until from June of 2021 until March of 2022, when the Congress passed the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act. So not only did this reauthorize the EB-5 Regional Center program, but for the first time, it included significant reforms to the program. And a majority of these reforms were aimed at the regional centers themselves, right? Because there had been so many cases of fraud where the regional centers had defrauded the investors that a lot of the reforms were aimed at the regional centers. Now, during the lapse between June and March, USCIS continued to process cases that had already been filed, that were pending. Because they, had considered that in this gray area that those existing regional centers were still authorized. But following the reauthorization, USCIS announced that all regional centers were effectively deauthorized, right? Meaning they weren't going to be receiving any new applications, and forcing all of these regional centers to essentially reapply. Well, think about it this way. I mean, EB-5 related cases, these are taking years to be processed, not months, years to be processed. And under normal circumstances, right, how many EB-5 regional center authorization applications are they receiving? Just a handful. Now suddenly you're going to turn around and force over 600 to apply for reauthorization. It would be a nightmare, and it could be years before these reauthorizations are issued. And during all this time, the actual investors are just sitting there waiting. So obviously in this case, the Bering Regional Center sued USCIS. And as we stated, the holding was that, well, in this case, the court enjoined USCIS from deauthorizing regional centers. Why? Well, it turns out that the act passed by Congress was ambiguous. on the question of deauthorization. It didn't say that the existing regional centers were deauthorized. It did set up some new things that had to be done for new authorizations. Actually, it just created a lot more hurdles to jump over for new authorizations, but it was silent as to old authorizations. So the court said enjoined them from USCIS from deauthorizing everybody. Is this a final decision? Actually, no, it's just an injunction, meaning it will stay in force until either the court makes a final decision or they put into their injunction whether or not USCIS issues a reasonable decision about how regional centers should be treated. And of course, here, what is the net effect of all of this? What is the important thing? Immigrant investors that have invested in regional centers that were authorized before the sunset, right, can now file their I-526s, right? They had been waiting during that sunset period to file, and they thought, oh, act passed, we can now file. And then, of course, USCIS came out and said, no, we're deauthorizing everybody, so y'all have to wait. Now you can file. And the great thing is because of the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act, not only can investors file their I-526s, they can also now concurrently file their I-526 with their applications for residency. So their I-485 adjustment of status, which also includes the I-765 for work authorization and the I-131 for travel authorization, right? So the net effect is that right now, if you had invested in a previously authorized regional center, but were waiting, right, for the reauthorization in order to file your I-526, you now can, right? Because the court has enjoined USCIS's deauthorization of regional centers. Again, this could change, weeks or months from now. We have to see if USCIS is going to appeal what they're going to do here. But you can file if you've invested in a pre-existing, pre-authorized regional center. That is the update for today. As always, stay tuned to our channel for more information regarding everything immigration related. As always, download our app, Lawpilot Guardian. Lots of useful tools there. You can get it on Android or iOS. And as always, just stay tuned for more updates and information. Thank you.